everyone, good morning. I haven't posted in a few days, but I wanted to get back into the swing of things, even though I am driving, because that seems to be the best time for me to break away during the week. I promise I'm not distracted. My eyes are on the road. I had an observation this weekend. I'm a fairly active citizen in my community and in my state. I attended a political meeting on Saturday for the whole that was involved for the whole state of Utah. All the people who were organizers of the state Republican Party. And I was reading some political posts on the way up, and I noticed something, and I noticed that same thing in the meeting that I attended, and I've probably noticed this a lot over the last little while, is that we're all screaming at each other because none of us feel like anyone is listening to us. And I work with a population in my counseling practice. My wife and I and all of our team work with individuals who constantly feel invalidated all the time, who don't feel like they're listened to, and so they tend to raise the intensity of their screaming or yelling because they're in pain, and their pain is not being validated, and their pain is not being heard, and so they up the intensity to be heard. And I thought about all the times that I've done that in my marriage, all the times that I've raised my intensity, and yelled and screamed louder because I don't feel like I'm being heard, or vice versa. My wife's gotten mad and yelled at me because she doesn't feel like I'm hearing her. And I think this is a lot more prevalent than we know, and we see it so often on Facebook and in discussions, and well, if you can call them discussions nowadays. And I think the reality is that none of us are feeling heard by the other people, and how important it is to feel heard by everyone. And I know that my last big fight with my wife was a few weeks ago, and we tend to fight. So we both teach the same therapy. Like we use the same book. We run groups that teach these skills, and so I have an expectation that my wife understands the therapy the way I do. And so when I try to tell her this is the way the therapy is, and she yells at me back saying, no, this is the way I see it, then we're not hearing each other. We're just yelling back and forth at each other. And I finally stopped and realized, wait, you don't see it the way I do? Like, I know this is a shocking realization for everyone, but I finally realized that my wife doesn't see the world the way I do. And that was the moment that we stopped fighting, was I finally sat and listened. And I don't agree with the way she sees it, obviously, because I see it the way I see it, but I at least didn't try to force her into believing that the way I see it was the only way. And we just started listening to each other, and our conversations have been really good the past couple weeks because of it. I've just been trying to listen to my wife, and I wonder how much of that is the problem nowadays, that no one is just listening to each other. We're all just talking. And especially we see it in politics, because that's just where, for me, evil is spreading like wildfire amongst these debates. And I feel bad watching these debates, and I feel sad. What would it take for us to validate those around us? What would it take for us to and validation doesn't mean that we agree with. Validation doesn't mean that that we think they're right. Validation means that we can actually see their point and see why their intensity makes sense. It doesn't mean it's right. It just means that we can see why their intensity makes sense to them. And that's a huge thing. Like, if people could actually see that we hear their intensity and we feel their intensity and we see that they're in pain and we can recognize that they're in pain, how would that change so many conversations? I know that it's changed a conversation with my wife and I, and that's been hugely helpful. So as I wrap up today, I just want to say, take some time today and just try to listen to people, especially people who are yelling and screaming. I'm not saying you have to agree with them. In fact, don't agree with them. I'm not making yelling and screaming okay, because it's not. It wasn't okay when I was doing it. It wasn't okay when I was being yelled at by, whether it be my wife or anyone else. That's not the point. The point is can we show people that we can hear them? And see how that changes your relationships. I know it's changed mine greatly, because I stopped assuming that the way I see it is right, and I started listening. And that was a huge turning point for me. So hope you all have a great day. Hope we were able to connect. Obviously, ask any questions or make any comments in the feed, and we'll talk to you later.